I never thought I'd find a stranger in my kitchen at 3 a.m., but HOA Karen Reynolds' obsession with cleanliness standards led to a breaking and entering spree that exposed her massive criminal enterprise and earned her 25 years in federal prison when she discovered too late that she had invaded the wrong house. At 38 years old, I thought my wife Maria and I had found the perfect suburban home in Cedar Grove Heights, a quiet middle-class community outside Atlanta that marketed itself as family-friendly and safe for children. After years of apartment living, we had finally saved enough to buy our dream 3-bedroom house where we could raise our 5-year-old daughter Sophia in a peaceful neighborhood. Our house was modest but well-maintained, featuring a cozy kitchen with granite countertops that Maria loved, comfortable living areas filled with Sophia's artwork and family photos, and a small backyard where Sophia spent hours playing with her toys and practicing riding her bicycle. We kept our home meticulously clean and organized, paid our HOA fees on time, and were respectful neighbors who followed all community guidelines to the letter. The neighborhood seemed absolutely perfect. Quiet, tree-lined streets where children played safely, friendly families who waved hello during evening walks, and well-maintained properties that created exactly the safe, wholesome environment we wanted for Sophia's childhood. We felt incredibly fortunate to have found such an ideal place to raise our daughter. What we didn't know was that Karen Reynolds, the 49-year-old self-appointed community cleanliness coordinator who lived 6 houses down in an imposing 2-story colonial, had been watching our family with growing obsession and planning to violate our home in ways that would reveal her systematic criminal operation targeting multiple families throughout the neighborhood. Karen Reynolds was a 49-year-old unemployed former hotel manager who had moved to Cedar Grove Heights 18 months earlier after being fired from her position at the prestigious Grand Magnolia Resort for inappropriate guest room inspections, violations of privacy policies, and what hotel management described as systematic invasion of guest privacy under false pretenses. Her employment file, which would later be obtained by federal investigators, revealed a disturbing pattern of behavior including unauthorized entry into guest rooms, installation of hidden cameras, theft of personal items, and creation of detailed dossiers on hotel guests that she claimed were for service improvement purposes. The Grand Magnolia had discovered that Karen had been conducting elaborate quality assessments of guest rooms that involved photographing personal belongings, searching through luggage, copying identification documents, and creating detailed profiles of guests that included their daily routines, financial information, and personal relationships. When confronted, Karen had insisted she was conducting hospitality excellence evaluations authorized by federal hotel standards legislation that didn't exist. Hotel security footage revealed that Karen had been systematically invading guest privacy for over 2 years, entering rooms when guests were away, and conducting what she called comprehensive cleanliness and security assessments. She had installed surveillance equipment in dozens of rooms, stolen credit card information from hundreds of guests, and created a sophisticated intelligence network that she was using to facilitate identity theft and fraud operations. The hotel had fired her immediately and banned her from the property, but they had chosen not to press criminal charges in exchange for her agreement to leave the state and seek psychiatric treatment. Instead, Karen had simply moved to Georgia and begun targeting residential communities with the same systematic approach she had used against hotel guests. She claimed she wanted to maintain community standards and ensure appropriate residential cleanliness. But it quickly became apparent that her idea of maintenance involved criminal violations of privacy and systematic home invasions that went far beyond anything resembling legitimate community oversight. She had learned from her hotel experience to be more careful about documentation and to create more elaborate justifications for her criminal behavior. Karen lived alone in her large house, spending her days conducting what she called neighborhood quality assessments and creating elaborate filing systems that documented every family's daily routines, cleaning habits, and personal information. Neighbors had noticed her walking around the community at all hours with clipboards and cameras, but most assumed she was simply an overzealous HOA volunteer rather than someone planning systematic criminal activities. The first sign of trouble came on a Tuesday evening in September when Maria noticed someone had been looking through our kitchen window while we were having dinner with Sophia. "David, I think someone was watching us eat. I saw a shadow by the window that moved when I looked toward it, and there was definitely someone standing there." I checked outside immediately but found nothing unusual, though I noticed some disturbed soil under our kitchen window and what appeared to be fresh footprints in the flower bed that Maria had just planted with colorful petunias. "Maybe it was just a neighbor walking their dog or someone looking for a lost pet," I suggested, though something felt distinctly wrong about the situation and the deliberate nature of the footprints. The footprints look like someone was standing there for a while, not just walking by, and they're right under our window where they could see directly into our kitchen. 2 days later, Maria found more evidence that someone had been on our property without permission, and the pattern was becoming increasingly disturbing. "David, someone has been around our house again. There are new footprints under our bedroom window, and it looks like someone tried to look through the gaps in our blinds. Some of the slats are bent like someone was pushing them apart." This time, the evidence was much more obvious and concerning. The soil under our bedroom window was clearly disturbed, with deep footprints indicating someone had spent significant time there during the night. Some of our carefully planted flowers had been trampled, and there were smudge marks on the window glass at eye level, as if someone had been pressing their face against the glass to see inside. "Maria, this is getting really serious. Someone is definitely conducting surveillance of our house, and they're being very deliberate about it. Should we call the police now? This is starting to feel like stalking. Let's set up some security cameras first and see if we can identify who's doing this. If we can get video evidence, the police will be able to take action more effectively." That weekend, I invested in a comprehensive security camera system, spending nearly $2,000 on professional-grade equipment that would cover all windows, doors, and approaches to our house. The system included motion detection, infrared night vision, smartphone alerts that would notify us immediately of any activity, and cloud storage that would preserve evidence even if someone tried to tamper with the cameras. What we captured over the next week was far more disturbing than simple window peeping or curiosity. It was systematic surveillance that revealed a level of obsession and planning that made us genuinely fearful for our family's safety. The first footage showed Karen Reynolds conducting what appeared to be military-style reconnaissance of our home during different times of day, taking detailed notes on a clipboard while observing our windows from various angles around our property, and timing our daily routines with obvious criminal intent. Monday evening, Karen, standing under our kitchen window for 20 minutes, photographing the interior with a professional camera and writing detailed notes about our dinner routine and kitchen layout Tuesday morning. Karen examining our garbage cans. Before pickup, taking pictures of our trash and making entries in what appeared to be a detailed notebook while wearing latex gloves Wednesday afternoon. Karen using professional binoculars to look through our living room windows while we were at work, documenting our home's contents and layout Thursday evening. Karen circling our house multiple times, testing windows and doors to see if any were unlocked and examining our security measures Friday morning. Karen measuring our windows and photographing our home's exterior from multiple angles, clearly planning some type of entry. But Friday night brought the incident that changed everything and revealed the true scope of Karen's criminal behavior in ways that shocked even experienced law enforcement officers. At exactly 3:17 a.m., our security system sent multiple alerts to both our phones as motion sensors detected activity near our kitchen window. I checked the camera feed on my phone and was absolutely shocked to see Karen Reynolds dressed in dark clothing and wearing latex gloves, actually climbing through our partially open kitchen window into our house with obvious criminal intent. I immediately woke Maria and called 911 while watching in horror as Karen moved through our kitchen with the confidence of someone who had clearly planned this invasion in detail, opening cabinets methodically, examining our refrigerator contents with scientific precision, and photographing everything with her phone while making notes on her ever-present clipboard. 911, what's your emergency? Someone just broke into our house through our kitchen window. She's inside right now, going through our kitchen like she owns the place. Sir, are you and your family in a safe location? We're locked in our bedroom upstairs with our 5-year-old daughter. I can see the intruder on our security cameras. She's wearing dark clothes and gloves, and she's systematically going through our kitchen cabinets and photographing everything. Officers are en route immediately. Stay on the line, keep your door locked, and do not attempt to confront the intruder under any circumstances." As we waited for police while trying to keep Sophia calm and quiet, Karen's behavior became increasingly brazen and bizarre, revealing a level of systematic planning that suggested this was far from her first break-in. The security footage showed her conducting what appeared to be a detailed professional inspection of our home, photographing every room from multiple angles, opening drawers and cabinets with obvious familiarity, and making extensive notes in her clipboard as if she were conducting some type of official assessment. She spent 15 minutes in our kitchen, meticulously documenting the contents of our refrigerator, photographing our dishes and counters from various angles, taking what appeared to be samples of food from our pantry in small containers she had brought with her, and even examining our cleaning supplies with the expertise of someone conducting a professional health inspection. She moved to our living room with military precision, photographing our furniture from multiple angles, examining our bookshelves and making notes about our reading materials, opening our mail that was sitting on the coffee table and photographing important documents, and conducting what appeared to be an inventory of our electronics and valuables. Most disturbing of all, she attempted to enter Sophia's bedroom with obvious criminal intent, though fortunately our daughter was sleeping in our room that night after having a nightmare about monsters earlier in the evening. Karen spent several minutes photographing Sophia's toys, examining her closet and drawers, and making detailed notes about our daughter's belongings and room layout. When police arrived 12 minutes later, they found Karen still inside our house, now in our home office, going through our computer desk with professional efficiency and photographing our personal documents, financial records, and family information, with the systematic approach of someone conducting intelligence gathering for criminal purposes. Officer Johnson's arrest of Karen was captured perfectly by our security system, providing crucial evidence that would later be instrumental in her prosecution and revealing the scope of her criminal delusions. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for breaking and entering, criminal trespass, and burglary." Karen's reaction was immediate and revealed the depth of her delusion about having legitimate authority to enter our home without permission. "Breaking and entering? Officer Johnson, I was conducting a mandatory residential cleanliness inspection authorized by the HOA board and community standards legislation." "Ma'am, no one has authority to enter someone's home without permission, especially not at 3 a.m. through a window. I have community cleanliness coordinator authority granted by state residential standards legislation. The HOA board granted me comprehensive inspection rights to ensure neighborhood cleanliness compliance." "Ma'am, no such authority exists anywhere in any law. You committed breaking and entering by climbing through their window in the middle of the night." "I entered through available access to conduct emergency cleanliness verification. This family's residential standards require immediate professional assessment and intervention." Officer Johnson was clearly confused and disturbed by Karen's elaborate claims. "Ma'am, you committed serious felonies. There's no such thing as emergency cleanliness verification or legal authority to break into homes." "There absolutely is. I'm licensed by the State Residential Standards Board, certified by the Federal Housing Inspection Authority, and authorized by municipal cleanliness enforcement legislation." As Karen was handcuffed, she continued her increasingly unhinged rant about having multiple forms of government authority to enter our home. "Officer Johnson, these people have serious cleanliness violations that threaten community health. I found expired food products, disorganized cabinet systems, inappropriate storage methods, and substandard cleaning supply arrangements. Ma'am, you were criminally trespassing in their home at 3 a.m. I was conducting emergency residential inspection under authority granted by the community. Cleanliness Protection Act of 2019. When we came downstairs to give our statements to police, Karen's response to seeing us was even more disturbing and revealed her complete disconnection from reality. "Mr. and Mrs. Garcia, I've completed your emergency residential cleanliness inspection, and you have multiple serious violations that require immediate correction and follow-up assessments." I stared at her in complete disbelief. "Karen, you broke into our house in the middle of the night and violated our family's privacy and safety." I conducted a mandatory inspection required by law. Your kitchen standards are unacceptable according to federal residential cleanliness guidelines. Your food storage violates multiple health codes, and your overall household organization threatens community cleanliness standards. You climbed through our window like a burglar. I used available access methods to conduct required emergency inspections. Critical cleanliness situations don't wait for convenient scheduling or normal business hours. Maria was furious and shaking. Karen, you invaded our home, violated our privacy, and terrified our family. I documented cleanliness violations and residential standard failures that require immediate intervention. Your home requires comprehensive remediation to meet basic community cleanliness requirements. Officer Johnson was getting increasingly frustrated with Karen's delusional claims. Ma'am, you committed multiple serious felonies. There's no legal authority anywhere for what you did to this family. There's comprehensive legal authority. I'm a licensed residential cleanliness coordinator with full inspection rights granted by state residential standards legislation, federal housing cleanliness enforcement authority, and emergency intervention powers. After Karen was taken away in handcuffs while still ranting about cleanliness violations and inspection authority, Officer Johnson explained that this wasn't an isolated incident, but part of a much larger pattern of criminal behavior. Mr. and Mrs. Garcia, we've received several reports over the past few months about someone conducting unauthorized inspections of homes throughout this neighborhood. This appears to be part of a systematic campaign of home invasions. Other homes have been invaded too. At least 8 other families have reported similar incidents over the past 2 months. Someone has been entering homes without permission and claiming to conduct various types of official inspections. The same person doing the same thing? Based on the descriptions, behavior patterns, and claims of inspection authority, it appears to be the same individual. She's been claiming different types of government authority: health inspections, safety inspections, cleanliness inspections, code enforcement, but always involving unauthorized entry into private homes. How many families has she victimized? We're still investigating, but the number appears to be significant. What makes this case particularly serious is the systematic nature of her activities and the level of planning involved. The next morning, Detective Sarah Martinez contacted us to discuss the broader investigation into Karen's criminal activities, and what she revealed was far more disturbing than simple breaking and entering. Mr. and Mrs. Garcia, we're discovering that Missy Reynolds has been conducting a sophisticated campaign of home invasions throughout your neighborhood and several adjacent communities under the pretense of various types of official inspections. How sophisticated are we talking about? She's been planning and executing these invasions for several months, always claiming some type of government inspection authority. What makes this particularly serious is the scope, organization, and apparent criminal intent of her activities. Detective Martinez showed us evidence that had been seized from Karen's house during a comprehensive search warrant execution that revealed the true scope of her criminal enterprise. We found detailed intelligence files on over 40 families in Cedar Grove Heights and surrounding neighborhoods, including floor plans, daily schedules, security system information, financial data, and personal information about family members. The files were extensive, professionally organized, and deeply disturbing in their detail and scope. Detailed architectural maps of each house showing entry points, security vulnerabilities, and escape routes. Comprehensive schedules documenting when families were home, at work, traveling, or following predictable routines. Hundreds of photographs of home interiors taken without permission during previous invasions. Financial information including income estimates, property values, bank account, details, and credit information. Personal information about family members, including children's school schedules, after-school activities, and behavioral patterns. Health information about family members, including medications, medical appointments, and physical limitations. Detective, how did she possibly get all this incredibly detailed information about so many families? Based on the evidence, she's been conducting systematic surveillance and unauthorized entries for at least 6 months. The cleanliness inspection appears to be just one of several pretenses she's used to gain access to homes and gather intelligence. But Detective Martinez revealed something even more disturbing about Karen's activities and what she was doing with all the intelligence she gathered. "Mr. Garcia, we found evidence that Miss Reynolds hasn't been working alone. This appears to be part of a much larger criminal operation involving multiple individuals and organizations." The investigation had uncovered a sophisticated criminal network that used Karen's home invasions as the foundation for various illegal activities. Karen was collecting detailed intelligence about homes, families, and valuables during her inspections. She was providing this information to accomplices for various criminal purposes, including burglary, identity theft, and fraud. The inspections were cover for installing sophisticated surveillance equipment throughout homes. Multiple families had been victimized without realizing the full scope of the invasion and ongoing surveillance. We found evidence of identity theft, credit, card fraud, burglary planning, and what appears to be preparation for more serious crimes, including kidnapping, extortion, and possibly human trafficking. Kidnapping? Human trafficking? She had extremely detailed information about children's schedules, school locations, family routines, and security measures. Combined with the surveillance equipment we found installed in homes, this suggests planning for abduction scenarios and long-term criminal exploitation. The investigation revealed that Karen's home invasion operation was far more extensive, organized, and dangerous than simple breaking and entering or even burglary, representing what federal authorities would later describe as one of the most sophisticated residential criminal enterprises ever discovered. Evidence seized from her house during the extensive FBI raid included professional surveillance equipment, including hidden cameras, listening devices, GPS tracking equipment, sophisticated monitoring systems, and equipment typically used by intelligence agencies detailed. Criminal dossiers on over 90 families with children, including photos, personal information, vulnerability assessments, daily routines, and what appeared to be target prioritization rankings. Financial information stolen during home invasions, including bank account details, credit card numbers, investment information, tax records, and employment data identity documents, passports, social security cards, and credit cards belonging to 47 different victims, maps, and detailed floor plans of 73, homes with security vulnerabilities marked, escape routes planned, and optimal entry points identified, equipment for creating fake identification, government credentials, inspection authorization documents, and law enforcement badges, communications, with criminal organizations involved in burglary, identity theft, human trafficking, organized crime, drug distribution, and money laundering. Weapons cache including handguns, assault rifles, ammunition, explosives, and chemical weapons. Medical. Supplies and equipment suggesting preparation for long-term captivity of victims. Computer servers containing encrypted databases of stolen information and criminal network communications. But perhaps most disturbing was Karen's expansion plan. A detailed strategy document outlining her intentions to replicate her Cedar Grove Heights operation in communities across the Southeast, eventually creating what she called a regional residential quality control network that would systematically invade and monitor hundreds of neighborhoods. Mr. Garcia, Miss Reynolds was operating what amounts to a criminal intelligence and surveillance network, targeting your entire community and planning expansion across multiple states. This wasn't just home invasion. This was preparation for what could have become a massive organized crime operation. But the most shocking discovery was yet to come about what Karen was doing with all the information she collected and how extensive her criminal network actually was. Detective Martinez showed us communications that had been recovered from Karen's computer, phone records, and encrypted messaging applications. She was selling the intelligence she gathered to various criminal organizations, including professional burglary rings, identity theft operations, human trafficking networks, and organized crime syndicates. The communications revealed a sophisticated criminal marketplace where Karen's home invasion intelligence was being used for multiple types of serious crimes: home security information, daily routines, and valuable property locations sold to professional burglary organizations. Children's schedules, personal information, and family vulnerability assessments provided to human trafficking networks. Financial data and identity information used for large-scale credit fraud and identity theft operations, personal routines, and relationship information used for stalking, harassment, and extortion campaigns. Family medical information sold to insurance fraud operations. Home layout and security information provided to organized crime for planning more serious violent crimes. She was essentially operating a criminal intelligence service, using systematic home invasions to gather information that she sold to other criminals for various illegal purposes. The investigation expanded dramatically as police realized the scope of Karen's network and the number of victims involved across multiple states. Over the next 6 weeks, as the investigation expanded and federal authorities uncovered the true scope of Karen's criminal network, the revelations became increasingly shocking. 47 confirmed home invasions across 8 different neighborhoods in 3 states, 134 families whose personal information had been stolen and sold to criminal organizations, 31 burglaries that had been planned and executed using Karen's intelligence, resulting in over $2.8 million in stolen property, 12 attempted. Kidnappings that had been thwarted by family security measures, police intervention, or random circumstances, $680,000 in identity theft and financial fraud directly traceable to Karen's information gathering, 28 families who had been stalked and harassed using information gathered during home invasions, 15 children who had been specifically targeted for potential abduction based on Karen's detailed surveillance, 6 families who had been forced to relocate after receiving death threats from criminals who had purchased their information, multiple cases of employment termination, credit destruction, and relationship sabotage caused by Karen's information trafficking. Evidence of planned expansion into 12 additional communities across Georgia, Alabama, and Tennessee, Mr. Garcia. The scope of victimization is staggering. Your security system and quick police response didn't just prevent a burglary. You likely prevented kidnappings, murders, and the expansion of a criminal network that could have affected hundreds of families. Federal investigators also discovered that Karen had been recruiting and training accomplices to replicate her methods in other communities. She had created detailed training materials including home assessment protocols, systematic methods for surveillance and intelligence gathering, entry techniques manual, instructions for breaking into homes without detection, information, harvesting guidelines, methods for stealing and organizing personal data, customer development strategies, approaches for selling stolen information to criminal organizations, expansion methodology, plans for replicating the operation in new communities. 3 other individuals had already begun implementing Karen's methods in communities in Alabama and Tennessee, though they were arrested before their operations reached the scope and sophistication of Karen's Cedar Grove Heights network. But Detective Martinez had one final shocking revelation about Karen's operation and what she was planning for the future. We found evidence that Miss Reynolds was planning to escalate her activities significantly beyond information gathering and sales. She had acquired equipment and supplies for what appears to be planned home invasions involving violence, long-term captivity, and possibly murder. The evidence was deeply disturbing and revealed that Karen's criminal enterprise was preparing for much more serious and violent crimes. Weapons including guns, knives, and improvised weapons for subduing victims during home invasions, restraints, zip ties, and equipment for long-term captivity of victims. Chemicals that could be used for sedation, poisoning, or torture. Equipment for long-term surveillance, harassment, and psychological torture. Documents outlining detailed plans for blackmail and extortion schemes using gathered intelligence maps and plans for what appeared to be organized crime activities including drug distribution and money laundering. She wasn't just collecting information and selling it. She was planning to use violence, intimidation, and possibly murder to control entire neighborhoods and expand her criminal enterprise. Karen's arraignment took place 3 weeks after her arrest, and her reaction to the extensive federal charges revealed the complete scope of her criminal delusions and total disconnection from reality. When federal judge Robert Chen read the 20 federal charges against her, Karen's response was immediate, explosive, and provided even more evidence of her dangerous mental state. 20 federal charges? For conducting mandatory residential cleanliness inspections required by law? Federal Judge Chen was clearly disturbed by both the scope of the charges and Karen's delusional response. Miss Reynolds, you're charged with multiple counts of breaking and entering, burglary, identity theft, conspiracy to commit federal crimes, violation of federal privacy laws, and conspiracy to commit kidnapping. Federal privacy laws? Conspiracy to commit kidnapping? Your Honor, I was conducting legitimate residential cleanliness inspections authorized by community standards legislation and Federal Housing Enforcement Authority. Missy Reynolds, there is no such legislation or authority. You broke into people's homes, stole their personal information, and sold it to criminal organizations. I entered homes to conduct required cleanliness inspections. Communities have the right to maintain residential standards through mandatory assessments authorized by federal housing legislation. The federal prosecutor presented evidence of Karen's systematic criminal operation that revealed the true scope of her crimes. Your Honor, the defendant operated a sophisticated criminal network involving systematic home invasions, identity theft, and trafficking of stolen personal information to criminal organizations involved in burglary, fraud, human trafficking, and organized crime. Criminal organizations? Your Honor, I provided professional inspection services to qualified residential standards coordinators and community safety organizations. Miss Reynolds, you sold children's personal information to human trafficking networks. I provided family safety information to community protection organizations. Everything I did was to protect neighborhood cleanliness standards and residential safety. Judge Chen was clearly appalled by Karen's complete lack of understanding about the severity of her crimes and the danger she posed to families and children. Miss Reynolds, you systematically violated the privacy and safety of dozens of families, including putting children at risk of abduction and exploitation through your trafficking of their personal information. I protected community cleanliness standards. These families needed inspection intervention to maintain appropriate residential quality and community safety. Karen's bail was denied due to the scope of her crimes, the danger she posed to the community, and her clear intention to continue her criminal activities. This court finds that the defendant represents a clear and present danger to community safety and has demonstrated intent to continue criminal activities. Bail is denied pending trial. Community safety? Your Honor, I was protecting community safety through residential cleanliness standards, enforcement, and neighborhood quality maintenance. As Karen was led away to federal detention, she continued her increasingly unhinged rant about cleanliness, inspections, and community standards while federal marshals struggled to control her outbursts. You're all destroying community cleanliness standards. When neighborhoods collapse from poor residential maintenance, remember that I tried to protect community quality. The trial began 8 months later and became a landmark case in home invasion, privacy violation, and organized crime law, attracting national media attention and establishing important legal precedents. The prosecution, led by Assistant U.S. Attorney Jennifer Walsh, presented overwhelming evidence of Karen's systematic criminal operation. High-definition video footage of multiple home invasions showing Karen's systematic approach. Detailed files stolen from victims' homes containing personal and financial information. Communications with criminal organizations showing the sale of stolen information. Evidence of financial fraud and identity theft directly traceable to Karen's activities. Testimony from dozens of victims whose homes had been invaded and whose families had been put at risk. Expert testimony about the sophisticated nature of Karen's criminal network and its connections to organized crime. The most damaging evidence was Karen's own extensive documentation of her criminal activities, including detailed plans for escalating her home invasion operation and expanding into more serious violent crimes. Karen's defense attorney attempted to argue that she had genuinely believed she had inspection authority and was suffering from mental illness. But when Karen insisted on testifying in her own defense, she provided devastating evidence of her criminal intent, sophisticated planning, and complete lack of remorse. "Miss Reynolds, did you have any legal authority to enter people's homes without permission?" the prosecutor asked during what became legendary testimony. "I had comprehensive community cleanliness coordination authority granted by residential standards legislation, federal housing enforcement powers, and HOA emergency inspection rights. No such authority exists anywhere in any law. You broke into people's homes through windows and doors. I accessed homes through available entry points to conduct mandatory cleanliness inspections required by community standards and federal housing quality legislation. You stole personal information from families and sold it to criminals. I shared professional inspection data with qualified community safety organizations and residential standards coordinators. Everything I did was to maintain neighborhood cleanliness and protect community quality." The prosecutor showed the jury evidence of Karen's extensive communications with criminal networks involved in serious crimes. "Missy Reynolds, you sold children's personal information, school schedules, and family routines to human trafficking organizations. How was that protecting community quality?" "I provided family safety information to organizations that ensure appropriate community demographics and residential quality standards." Appropriate community demographics? Families that meet residential cleanliness standards and community quality requirements. Some families needed intervention and assessment to maintain neighborhood standards. The jury was visibly disturbed by Karen's continuing criminal justifications and complete absence of remorse for putting children and families at risk. "Miss Reynolds, you invaded homes, stole personal property, and put children at risk of kidnapping and exploitation. Do you have any regret for your actions?" "I regret that people don't understand community cleanliness standards. I regret that residential quality isn't properly enforced and maintained." "Do you regret traumatizing families and putting children in danger?" "I regret that families resist necessary cleanliness inspections that protect community standards and neighborhood safety." Karen's testimony continued for 5 days, with each answer providing more evidence of her criminal mindset, dangerous delusions, and complete lack of understanding about the severity of her crimes. The jury deliberated for only 6 hours before finding Karen guilty on all 20 federal charges: breaking and entering, 8 counts, burglary, 6 counts, identity theft, 4 counts, conspiracy to commit federal crimes, violation of federal privacy laws, money laundering. When the verdict was read, Karen's final breakdown was complete and provided one last display of her criminal delusions. Guilty on all charges? For protecting community cleanliness standards and residential quality. Judge Chen delivered a sentence that reflected the serious nature of Karen's crimes, the danger she posed to families and children, and the need to deter similar criminal enterprises. "Miss Reynolds, you operated a sophisticated criminal enterprise that violated the most basic privacy and safety rights of dozens of families. You put children at risk of abduction and exploitation, stole personal information for criminal purposes, and showed complete contempt for the law, human decency, and family safety. I protected community cleanliness standards. I maintained residential quality requirements and neighborhood safety. This court sentences you to 25 years in federal prison without possibility of parole, followed by 10 years of supervised release. You are permanently banned from any community management positions, required to pay $750,000 in restitution to your victims, and subject to lifetime monitoring for criminal activity." Karen's final statement revealed her complete disconnection from reality and continuing danger to society. This sentence will destroy community cleanliness standards across America. When neighborhoods collapse from poor residential maintenance and criminal infiltration, remember that I tried to protect community quality and family safety. After Karen's conviction, Maria and I were able to slowly return to peaceful enjoyment of our home, though the trauma of her invasion had profoundly affected our sense of security and Sophia's ability to feel safe in her own house. With extensive counseling, enhanced security measures, and strong community support, we gradually recovered and continued building our life in Cedar Grove Heights. The community implemented comprehensive security measures to prevent future home invasions and protect families from similar criminal enterprises. Enhanced security systems throughout the neighborhood with professional monitoring. Clear policies. Prohibiting any unauthorized entry into homes under any circumstances. Coordination with law enforcement for rapid response to security threats and suspicious activity. Educational programs about home invasion prevention, privacy rights, and recognizing criminal schemes. Neighborhood watch programs trained to identify and report suspicious surveillance activity. Regular security assessments for all homes to identify and address vulnerabilities. Karen served 20 years of her 25-year sentence before dying in federal prison from complications related to her untreated severe mental illness and refusal to acknowledge her crimes. According to prison records, she maintained her delusions about cleanliness inspections and community standards until the end, insisting she was persecuted for protecting residential quality and family safety. Her extensive criminal network was completely dismantled by federal authorities in a massive investigation that revealed the scope of organized crime targeting suburban communities. 23 co-conspirators arrested across 6 states, $1.2 million in stolen property and fraudulent gains. Recovered and returned to victims. 127 identity theft victims provided restitution and comprehensive credit monitoring. New federal task force created specifically to prevent and investigate home invasion criminal networks. Enhanced federal legislation passed to address organized home invasion schemes and protect family privacy. The other members of her network were prosecuted for conspiracy and various federal crimes, with sentences ranging from 22 years for their roles in the home invasion, identity theft, human trafficking, and organized crime operations. According to final FBI reports, the criminal organization had targeted over 300 families across the Southeast, causing an estimated $4.8 million in damages through home invasions, identity theft, fraud, and related crimes while putting countless children at risk of abduction and exploitation.